This is actually part 2 of a video you've probably already seen part 1 of, and if you haven't seen part 1 of,
then I suggest you do so, and then come back and watch this one. Oh, and please subscribe.
In that video, I went through a bunch of lies the fitness industry has told you, and many of these lies you probably still believe. And I mentioned how a lot of these lies are pushed by either companies or people who promote something that gets them money. You're more likely to run with it, more likely to align with it, and buy whatever they're trying to sell you. So instead, I'm going to tell you what these lies are. I'm going to actually tell you the realities and the facts, and sometimes you may not want to hear the truth. And again, I say this with no disrespect, and I'm never trying to be rude throughout my videos. Quite frankly, I'm autistic and quite blunt without meaning to be rude. In addition to that, I tell you these things because I want you to be better. These are all things that are inherently going to make your life better if you believe them and actually align with them. And you know what? Try them. If they don't work for you, then maybe it's not truth. And maybe I've been lying to myself for 30-something years. Within that, I'm probably also going to sell you something, but my selling of coaching is going to be based on fact and actually want to make you better, not trying to just use you for money and make you fail, basically, like most content creators online that sadly do this, unfortunately. If you tell me not to lock my legs out on the leg press, I'm going to tell you to behave yourself, because that's nonsense. Let me get comfy. There have been many viral videos floating around the internet where you see an individual, usually a man ego lifting, on the leg press, locking their legs out, and you know what happens next. The knees go the wrong way and things get very saucy, but not in a nice way, in a painful way. People say, oh, the only reason that happened is because you locked his legs out on the leg press. No, it's not. The reason that happened is because he's ego lifting like an absolute muppet. Locking your legs out on the leg press is not a problem, provided you are lifting within your means. If your max leg press is 200 kilos and you're loading 500 kilos up here and snapping your legs at the top, you're cruising for a bruising, to be honest with you. If you're actually lifting within your strength limitations and sensibly, yeah, you're probably actually going to be okay. Do you need to lock your legs out on the leg press? Absolutely not. But you shouldn't demonize it just because you've seen a few viral videos of the worst, which happens to 0.00001% of people. If I follow the same logic, I would say you should never bench press because I've seen too many pec tears happen from bench pressing. There's more variables to consider than just the movement. The movement is often not the enemy. You've got to look at what the person was doing, be that recovery, fatigue, technique, or even just ego lifting. All of these things play a massive role. Don't get me wrong, if you absolutely yeet yourself into the oblivion and a lot faster than that, snap your legs at the top against load that you do not have the strength to lift, you're definitely increasing the chances of hurting yourself. But if you get to the top of the rep and simply just want to lock out, boom, like so, in a controlled and realistic manner against load you are capable of lifting, probably going to be okay. Unless you have a pre-existing medical condition, maybe you're hypermobile, but I'm assuming those watching this are healthy. Because if you aren't healthy, you probably should be going to the doctor and not looking at some big forehead man on YouTube. You shouldn't deadlift with the rounded back is something I hear all the time, but no one ever really elaborates on why, especially considering it's not necessarily true. So, when you're deadlifting, everyone always taught you that you must adopt a neutral spine position. What that might look like, do an RDL for example, as it is a deadlift variation. Shoulders back like so, boom, like so. This is what people would adopt as a neutral spine, give or take. You don't need one. I know what you're thinking. Well, Harry, that's controversial. You're a coach and you're promoting this. Listen and learn. When you are retracting your shoulders, thus contributing or encouraging that neutral spine position, what muscles are doing that? Your primary retractor muscles, so things like your rhomboids and your traps are going to be retracting your shoulders to then encourage said neutral spine. But if you are RDLing, you are deadlifting, you are doing any kind of heavy movement that involves your retractors in any capacity, like any of these movements previously mentioned, they are not going to be as strong as your glutes, your quads, your hamstrings, and maybe even your erectors too. A natural rounding is probably going to occur, and that's not the problem. When you are going heavy enough and you get strong enough, over time, you will realize that it's just not realistic for you to maintain a retracted position throughout an RDL, throughout a deadlift, because like I said, your traps and your rhomboids will never be as strong as your lower body here. What you can actually do is adopt a rounded back within reason. An intentionally rounded back is not inherently the problem. The problem is more likely to occur if there is a change in back positioning. So for example, if I start in a neutral position and as I deadlift, my back positioning changes significantly and adopts a more rounded position to finish, that is more problematic, like so. I start here, and I go like this. That's a problem. Isn't a problem if I adopt an intentionally rounded back because I know my retractor muscles are not going to be strong enough to hold said neutral spine, and instead I contract my lats and engage them to maintain a consistent back angle. Rather than like that, I'm going to intentionally round slightly, and I'm going to pull. That is fine. Granted, my thoracic mobility is not wild, so my rounding is not that impressive, Some people will round more, others less, but fundamentally, provided your back angle is consistent, be that if you start rounded, finish rounded sort of thing, you start retracted, finish retracted, probably going to be okay. And rounding your back is probably not going to be the reason you're hurting yourself. The reason you're hurting yourself is under recovery, over fatigue. Look at your programming. Your body can do incredible things, go through incredible ranges of motion, like so, with no issue, twisting, rotating, doing many things without any risk of injury, because quite frankly, if our body can naturally go through those positions, like so, like so, like so, lifting in said positions, provided you condition yourself to do so, is not going to be problematic, but again, you have to condition yourself to do so. Your rounded back probably isn't the issue. Your inconsistent and shifting position may well be though. I'm hungry. This is a controversial one, but I want you to listen before you react, please. There is a statement that goes around the industry quite a lot: health at any size. That's an interesting one because I actually disagree. Hear me out. I think you can be healthy at many sizes. I don't necessarily think you will be healthy at every size. For example, let's look at extremes here. If you are 6'3" and you are a male who weighs 25 to 30 kilos, you're probably not healthy. That's a concern. That is a big concern. If you are 5'1", a male, and you weigh 300 kilos, let's say, that is probably a concern. You're probably not healthy. And I think I would struggle to find anybody who is at that extreme of either end of the spectrum who actually is healthy or has no elements of concern in which their weight doesn't need to be managed. Probably does. Let's not look at extremes. I've seen an individual that might be a higher body fat percentage, and I put them next to an individual who might be jacked as bulls, incredibly muscular. It's an interesting one because external appearance doesn't necessarily dictate potential for health, and people really confuse that. I have seen individuals who are much higher body fat percentage and other individuals who are much more muscular, and the higher body fat percentage individuals were actually significantly healthier from a blood work perspective. The key word there is blood work perspective. External appearance cannot be used to necessarily dictate or definitively state whether somebody is healthy or not, although it can potentially be an indicator of somebody who may be more likely to be healthy. I think ultimately, mass is mass. BMI is there for a reason, although yes, it's very tricky because my BMI is obese. Obviously, I'm not obese, depending on who you ask and who's upset with me. There is an element behind that saying if you have a lot of mass on your frame, be that fat mass or muscle mass, you're still putting your body under more strain. Your heart is probably going to have to be working harder. Your internals in some capacity are probably going to have to be working harder. To maintain a certain size, be that fat mass or muscle mass, you're probably going to be eating a lot of food. What does your cholesterol look like? Again, there are many things to consider when pondering that. I mentioned earlier about blood work being an example because ultimately one of the best, or one of the only metrics I can really consider, or variables I can consider, is what your blood work says. My blood work in some capacity is incredible, and other times it's been bloody awful, to be honest with you. And again, there are many variables that influence that. When we look at health, we aren't simply looking at internal or physical health, we also need to consider psychological health as well. Mental health is a big thing. You may be, excuse me for saying this, I mean no disrespect here, severely anorexic, and your blood work for whatever reason may be incredible. Does that mean you're healthy? I'd argue no, because there is a mental hindrance that is putting you in this position that is quite frankly something that needs to be addressed, and I would deem to be an unhealthy thing we would want to resolve and find a solution for in the future, be that psychological intervention, therapy, whatever it may be. Flip around, you may have an individual who's maybe much larger, be that through muscle mass, be that through fat mass, whatever it may be, and their blood work may look incredible. But if they have an unhealthy relationship with food, are they healthy? I'd argue no. Many things to consider, and health isn't simply just physical health or a blood work metric, although we do use that as an example in this case. It can be very much about psychological health, mental health, whatever it may be. You can be healthy at many sizes. Doesn't mean you will be healthy at every size.
You will never get this, you will never get this.
Starvation mode doesn't exist. If you're not losing weight, it's because you're still eating too much. Start down here, so we're going to finish down here. There's been this myth or this lie around the industry that, oh, you can't lose weight because you're eating too little. You're actually in starvation mode. Rationalize that, please. The common idea of starvation mode, I know everyone's going to have a different definition. The typical idea that I grew up knowing or hearing was you're eating too little, therefore your body is holding onto fat, or you're gaining fat because of eating too little. So if you're eating 800 calories a day, you can't lose weight because you're in starvation mode and it's caused your body to gain weight, whatever it may be. Think about that just for a second. Please. That's like me saying your car can drive really far because you've got no petrol in it. It makes no sense. So ponder this. Let me get closer because people are around. I feel anxious and awkward now. Ultimately, if you want to lose weight, and want to lose fat, whatever you want to call it. People are going to be pedantic and split hairs there, but you know what I mean. But you need to be in a calorie deficit. If you're not losing weight, not losing fat, whatever it may be, you're not in a calorie deficit, and it's that simple. People say, oh, metabolic adaptation occurs. Not how you think it does. People say, oh, I'm eating too little, that's why I'm not losing weight. No, I'll tell you what's actually probably happening is you're still eating too much, or if you are eating an obscenely low amount of calories, let's say 1,000 calories a day, and you're not losing weight, because you're not actually eating 1,000 calories a day, one of two things is happening. Either you're lying and you're not tracking certain things, or there's an error that's not your fault in your tracking, in which case you're tracking things that say they're 1,000 calories, but they're actually 1,600, and that's not your fault. The tracking error is very common, but ultimately, there's not a single recorded case in medical history in which somebody's maintenance calories was below 1,000 calories. So if you tell me you're eating 800 calories a day and you're not losing weight, I actually had somebody come to me once say, I eat 400 calories a day and I'm not losing weight. They would be the first person in medical history to have ever experienced that, which to me indicates they're probably not telling me the truth. Sadly, science and the human body doesn't really factor in or care too much about what any of us wish to believe is true. A calorie deficit is how you're going to lose weight. Wow, look at the transitions. Lifting weights stunts your growth. No, it doesn't. That's actually such a lie. Do you know who actually tells you that? And I know this because I saw it at school. Men who aren't proud of how tall they are. They say it's because they started lifting weights when they're 14, that's why they're not tall. I'll tell you why they're not tall. Genetics. Your parents are short, I'm sorry for your loss. That's probably why you're not tall. Lifting weights hasn't had nothing to do with that. The whole idea was when you essentially lifting weights, you're under spinal compression, that's going to stunt growth plates, whatever it may be. You are not under compression, or your spine does not experience spinal compression for long enough for it to have any impact on growth plates or any kind of growing capacity like that. Reality is your height is going to be determined by your genetics. If you have tall parents, you're probably going to be tall. If you have short parents, you're probably going to be short. Are there anomalies here? Absolutely. Sometimes I know people who have very short parents who are very tall. I know people who have tall parents who are very short. It is what it is. But fundamentally, lifting weights at 14 or 13 or 12 years old is not the reason why the guy at school who told you that is short. I'll give you a prime example. There was a guy at my school, that's where I got the example from, who started lifting weights when he was young, and he was on the shorter side. And he used to say, oh, it's because I started lifting weights. And when I was at school, I believed it. Until I got older, and I realized that his mum is 5 foot tall, and his dad is 5'3". No wonder he's not 6'3". Genetically, it's just not there for him, which is absolutely fine. There's nothing wrong with being short whatsoever. There's not a problem at all, not a concern. My mum's 5'2". Your favourite influencer is lying to you. It's a funny thing. He's going, oh, hello. Oh, I'm over there now. I was there, now I'm here. Sadly, reality is this. In the fitness industry, it's an industry where how you look is going to contribute to how successful you are. If you look incredible, have an amazing physique year round, or look amazing on social media, people are going to want to either be trained by you, want to be you, whatever it may be. But in turn, going to encourage potential consumers, which in turn also encourages brand deals and money. Fantastic. Money is sadly very important in the world, although I wish it wasn't. The thing that people really struggle to understand, although it's far more common in the industry than you will ever believe, is that when your worth is so heavily dictated by your appearance, especially online appearance, you will do things that probably aren't morally correct to help you succeed. So this might include Photoshop or manipulating photos or videos to make you look a different way or a certain way, potentially arguably better depending on whose opinion that is, which can in turn help you gain more traction, more clients, more brand deals, whatever it may be. Taking enhancements in any capacity, like performance enhancing drugs. I am never, nor have I ever been against PED use. I think it's very much a personal choice. What I am against is people lying about it. If you're on enhancements, either be honest about it or just don't say anything about it at all. It's no one's business. But when you claim you are natural, meaning you don't take enhancements, when you are obviously or actually enhanced and you are lying, you're selling people a lie. And people often do that because they're trying to sell you something. I'll give you a little secret here. Drug use or not, you will never look like the individual you are hoping to look like because they are them and you are you. It's not going to happen, it's not going to change things. Genetically, we have our makeup, we look how we look, we can enhance that and alter it in certain capacities, muscle gain, fat gain, whatever it is. Our skeletal makeup is going to be the same, it's not going to change, and drugs won't save you there. Another thing to consider is surgery. One big thing people do not talk about is many an influencer gets surgical enhancement in any capacity. My beliefs here, same with the old performance enhancing drugs. If you want surgery, it's your body, your choice. I fully respect you. You know, you do what's best for you, but do not lie to people. Do not claim you haven't when you clearly have had surgery, because it promotes false and unrealistic expectations, which not only is snakery because you're lying to people that gave you a job, you're also absolutely battering the mental health of your consumers by making them feel like failures, making them feel like they're not good enough, and making them feel like they will never be you because you're feeding them a lie and promoting an unhealthy message, which I do not respect. Social media is a highlight reel. If somebody takes 1,000 pictures, they will post the best one. They will not post the worst 999. A highlight reel is not an accurate representation of real life. Someone actually asked me in my Q&A the other day, oh, Harry, you should day in the life. And many content creators would spice things up and make it look like they're doing all these incredible things. I wake up at 4 a.m, this amazing morning routine. At 6 a.m, I'm jet skiing on the River Thames. But in reality, what's actually happening is I'm sitting in front of my computer for about 12 hours a day, talking to clients, editing videos, doing something work-related. I go to the gym for a couple of hours as well, and I eat some really boring meals between that and go to bed later than I should. It's not very exciting, because my life isn't very exciting, but it's also realistic. If something looks like it's too good to be true, it probably is. That's not gonna happen. Oh, geez. That's hard work. Listen to my fitness advice, clearly I'm very fit. Throughout this video, I have probably debunked many of your beliefs. And again, I hope it did not cause offense, as that was not my intention. I'm simply telling you what I believe to be true to hopefully help you along your fitness endeavor, be that through muscle gain, weight loss, or strength gain, whatever it may be. What I would appreciate though, is if you did learn or even like anything I said throughout the video, please do consider liking the video, commenting down below, sharing with a friend, a family member, or even a pet, and maybe even subscribe to the channel. And if you're really bored, have a look at TFNL coaching, link down below in the description as always, because without that, I can't afford to pay Taylor to film these videos for me. And quite frankly, if you actually like watching me on the YouTube, you probably want me to continue doing that. Thank you for tolerating me. Thank you for tolerating my round 2 with the tyre after the round 1 was so successful. And thank you for tolerating the video after the round 1 was so successful. I didn't like that. I didn't like that.